Hari Om, Namaste, good morning, good evening. Welcome to day 2 of Guiding Nature, hosted by Chinmay Mission Cleveland, Niagara, in collaboration with United Consciousness. So glad we are all here together. Our guide, Sri Vivekji Gupta, after completing the 2-year residential Vedanta course, has dedicated his life to spreading the teachings of Sanatana Dharma. With daily, weekly, monthly courses and sanghas, numerous retreats and yatras, and as a trained Hindu chaplain, Vivekji has impacted the lives of thousands. Vivekji's relatable teaching style and ability to connect with virtually any demographic has naturally extended Vivekji's reach to a diverse amount of settings. He has spoken at events at the Pentagon, Amazon, Intel, CVS Health, the Veterans Health Administration, and numerous universities across the United States and Canada, including Boston University, Carnegie Mellon, and Case Western University. We all are certainly fortunate to be here together, learning the teachings of Sanatana Dharma in the context of guiding nature from Vivekji. Hari Om, Vivekji.
Thank you. Hari Om and greetings from Cleveland. By a show of hands, how many of you have a very wealthy older relative? By a show of hands. Okay. Imagine this very wealthy older relative came to your home. And they were very happy that they were there. And they left an envelope just on the desk in the room that they were staying in. And in that envelope, there's a check for $100,000 US. Now you go into the room and you make the bed and you remove the towel and you see the envelope, but you think the envelope is empty. Then that $100,000 doesn't mean anything to you, correct? You have to know that that check is in the envelope for you to benefit by it. Similarly, I'm not talking based on experience. I'm talking based on my wish, wish in life. Similarly is the organization of the G20. The G20 is the 20 wealthy by gross domestic product countries of the world. And I'm presuming that the vision of the G20 is to know their own privilege so that they can share this privilege with other countries. This year, the G20 is being hosted by India. And India has adopted the slogan of Vasudhaiva Kutumbaka and zoomed into this more through one earth, one family, one future, and has assigned international coordinators like United Consciousness and Chinmay Mission to share knowledge about Vasudhaiva Kutumbaka so that people benefit by this message, so that people share this message. Vasudha means earth. Eva means alone. And Kutumbaka means family. Our earth already knows this. And our earth is already living like this. Whether one is in the Eastern Hemisphere or the Western Hemisphere, we all have access to space, to air, and so on. Our earth is treating us equally. We are engaged in a workshop by the name of Guiding Nature, where we're trying to understand our earth more so that we feel that nature is guiding us to our nature of oneness, that we are all one family. I welcome all who are joining us in Cleveland Live, joining us from America, from Canada, from Europe, from India, and a special welcome to all those who have gathered in Fairfield, Connecticut. You've all gathered for a camp on realizing your potential, and you've brought in family members from Albany, and a further special welcome to all who are joining us from Tamil Nadu. I know you're not here to listen to me, but you're here to listen to the to the professional speak about Vasudhaiva Kutumbaka. We are trying to know Earth Alone family. All on earth are a family through Srimad Bhagavata. The word Bhagavata, I'm going to open this up for you. Ta is defined as means, a method. Va means best. Ga means to change. And Bha means to be free. So putting all of this together, Bhagavata is the best means to change so that we feel free, so that we feel we are the source of our own joy. Now, the student in Bhagavata that we're focused on, Rishi Uddhava, he is listening that he is the source of his own joy, but he is unable to feel this. He needs help. And so Shri Krishna directs him to a narration involving Avaduta, also known as Rishi Dattatreya. The word Rishi, when translated into English, is seer. One who can see what an ordinary person cannot. What does Rishi Dattatreya see while living on earth, living in the jungle? He sees Vasudhaiva Kutumbaka. If I can translate these words into a simple English phrase, it means to love all. Vasudhaiva Kutumbaka means to love all. Rishi Dattatreya is feeling this. The way that we love our own Atma or self, for us to love all in the same way is the experience of joy, is the experience of freedom. I'm using the word love because yesterday I was sharing an insight with all of you from my guide who shared that Vasudhaiva Kutumbaka can be lived by learning to love thyself, then in sequence, learning to love thy neighbor, and then learning to love thy mother. Now, as I was reflecting on this sequence more, I feel this very much aligns with, I'll explain. Love thy mother would be like one earth. Love thy neighbor would be like one family. And love thyself would be like one future, which means the more you love yourself, the more beautiful your future is going to be. So there's so much of synergy that we're feeling, that we're investing in terms of the motto of Vasudeva Kutumbaka and Bhagavata. The Avaduta, who's living in nature, learns how to forgive from his first guide, that is Prithvi. Prithvi in English means the earth. He was seeing how there is so much of conflict between people. And this conflict then gets inflicted upon the earth, but the earth never reciprocates that. The earth is always forgiving people who are fighting. And so for us, the way that we can start to feel all our family is to forgive. In Sanskrit, the word for forgiveness is kshanti. That starts with a K, but built into this word is shanti. The more one practices forgiveness, the more one experiences peace. The second guide from nature that the Avaduta observes, it is Vayu. Vayu in English means the wind. Avaduta sees that this wind goes to all places, but is unaffected by the places it goes to. Whether it goes to this person's home or that person's home, it is unaffected. And so for us, our practice is to purify. Those who are purer are less affected by their context. How many of you have a tough person that you study with if you're in school, or a tough person you work with if you're working in a professional environment, by a show of hands? All of us. Some of you work together. That's why you don't have your hands up. And then sometimes a new student comes or a new worker comes and you feel they're like a breath of fresh air to purify. The third guide is Akasha. Akasha in English is space. And the Avaduta observes that Akasha, or space, accommodates all. Humans, animals, plants, stones, even the other elements like earth, water, fire, air. And so we've distilled our practice to accept, forgive and purify and accept. Now share with me in the chat, what's the opposite of acceptance? What's the opposite? You may not know this logically, but definitely experience this practically. Someone wrote reject. Thank you. Thank you for grammar class. It is anger. Whatever we don't accept, we're angry at. And whatever we do accept, we are patient with. And finally, the fourth guide that we've explored from Bhagavata is Apa. Apa means water. And the Avaduta observes that water is most gratifying. And when you study a lot of the scriptures from Sanatana Dharma, even though scientifically or technically people share that water doesn't have a taste, when you really want water and you drink it, doesn't it taste sweet? Sometimes this is described as nectar, which is factually wrong, but you feel it, correct? It's gratifying. And so our practice is to refresh, to refresh ourselves, to refresh others. In Bhagavata, there's a beautiful insight about the 5 great purifiers. The 5 great purifiers are air, fire, sun, water, naturally bringing that up. And the 5th shuchi is words. The words of the wise are one of the 5 great purifiers. So from water to refresh, it makes one feel more shuchi. We continue. Our workshop is on guiding nature. I'm sharing perspectives from a philosophical narrative, and soon we will also experience insights from a professional narrative of how nature is guiding us to nature, is guiding us to Vasudeva Kutumbaka. Number 5 is the kapota. The kapota. Anyone here know what kapota means in English? A dove. Some are describing this as a pigeon. Fine. A dove. And what this rishi observes while living in the jungle is there was a family of doves, and one day the kids were left in a nest and the parents went to find food for their kids. And a hunter, a bird gatherer, happened to be near this nest and had put a net on this nest. Now, when the parents came back, they were on a different branch and they heard that their kids were chirping for help. And what this mother did was she went into that net. She thought, I'll go and help them. But what happened to her? She got caught too. So now the father is observing all of this and he thinks that he can help. So he goes into that net too. And he ends up being captured also. And that hunter was thinking, buy 1, get 3. That I got all of this with one net. And so what the Avaduta realizes is the danger of attachment. When we're attached, we lose objectivity. We feel we can help in ways that we can't help, and that only causes more harm. Distilling this more into a practice, our verb is to serve. Instead of being attached to people, to our family, to serve people, to not harm them, but help them. Starting with loving thyself. This relates to one future. How we can practice this is to exercise. Exercise your body. How many of you exercised today? Wow. It's like we're all in sync about this because you were thinking about that kapota, correct? And then distilling it to serve. I had come across this awesome quote that shared, if exercise came in a bottle, it would be the most widely prescribed prescription. Yes? Who wouldn't prescribe exercise? What it does is it keeps us in the long game. Helps us to play long innings. As someone who's married and has 2 young children, I want to be alive long enough, just enough, for them to be relatively independent. But the only way that's going to be possible is if I exercise. How to practice this in reference to love thy neighbor? It is to challenge those who are close to you. Now, don't take this literally. You're already doing that. Think about this more deeply. We have a strong propensity to be complacent. How many of you feel that you're complacent sometimes, by a show of hands? Some of you are so complacent you didn't even put your hand up. And so, if I really want to serve someone, then I should challenge them to be better. I should challenge them to exercise. I should challenge them to be in this workshop. And there's another benefit to this. If I'm challenging you to follow the right path, that means I have to know the right path, correct? So in challenging you, I'm really challenging myself also. And how can we serve our mother that relates to One Earth? It is to offer a portion of your resources, time, and effort to her. She has served us our whole life. Even when this body dies, she's still going to be serving us. So all that we've achieved, all of the ways we've succeeded, some royalty is owed back to her. Yes. So a portion of your resources, time, and effort should be offered in service of our mother. Interesting, no? If you read Bhagavata, the section on the Kapota is like this. But there's so much to reflect on and so much to practice. Number 6, how is nature guiding us to our nature? The guide is Ajgara. What does Ajgara mean in English? A snake or a python. Specifically, Ajgara means a python. Can you all show me how a python looks? See, some of you have your finger like this. No, a python is huge, like bulky, like this. What the Avaduta observed with a python, and what a jungle he's living in, correct? If we all went into the forest right now, we'd see deer and squirrels. Seeing so many awesome animals. He was observing that a python, when it's hungry, it will eat, and when it's not hungry, guess what it does? Doesn't eat. Whoa. Such a deep philosophy. But it is, because even when we're not hungry, we still eat, correct? My kids tell me all the time that they're full, but then there's ice cream and all of a sudden they're hungry again. So he learned from the Ajagara, or the python, to quiet it. To quiet it. This python is quiet. That's how it captures its food. And when it's full, it doesn't do anything then. There's an area of Florida, I think it's called Alligator Alley, I think. And so my wife and I, before we were married, we had gone there. And so you can rent these kayaks. Have any of you been there? Okay, you can rent these kayaks and you go into these small streams and lagoons and so on. And there are alligators everywhere. Alligators twice my size, but you can just kayak right by them. Over their tail, occasionally your paddle may hit them. And so the people who had guided us, so much guidance going on, had guided us before we did this, were sharing that these alligators, they really just move an hour a day. They are the most tamasic or complacent beings. They move an hour a day to eat, and after that, they don't do anything. They just essentially lie in the sun, like us on vacations, correct? And pythons are like that, quiet. Okay, how can we live this in regards to ourselves? It is to enjoy being alone. The word enjoy with an E is like external enquiry. It's where I'm trying to find joy outside of myself. But enjoy is you are alone and you are fine. Now, when we're alone, what do we usually do? Look at more screens, correct? When we're alone, to read more, read Bhagavata, to write more notes. That's the way we can quieten. In reference to loving thy neighbor, yesterday I'd shared with all of you to speak positively. And I hope you all saw on Chinmay Mission Niagara's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter accounts how a summary was shared with all of you. Those who have registered through Luma, this has been shared with you too, as a reminder. Here I'm refining what it means to speak positively. When one speaks, and Sri Krishna refers to this in the Bhagavad Gita, that everything that comes out of your mouth should go through the filters of satya. Satya in English, truthful. Hita, which means useful. And priya, which means beautiful. Beautiful, soft, sweet. So when you speak, it should be truthful, useful, and beautiful. If you do this, you will become way more quiet. Correct? That's how we can practice being like a python. That's strange, right? What did you learn last night? How to be like a python? How to be like a python. And what happens with actually practicing this? There's so many types of pollution. One type of pollution is sound pollution. And when there's lots of noise, it's harder to focus, correct? In Albany and Fairfield, right now, the camp is for high school students. And high school students have a tough time focusing because there's so much noise outside of them. That noise has become part of them. This is a very practical way to tend to that pollution. How do we practice to quieten in reference to our mother? Whatever you have, use it fully. Use it fully before you get another one. Let's say it's a water bottle, a bar of soap, a computer, a car. Use it fully. What makes us noisy is choice. But if you don't give yourself the option that I'm going to get another one of these until I use this one fully, it helps us be quiet and we're taking less from the earth, correct? When our community introduces me, I was just sharing with some seekers yesterday, I find this to be the most boring part of this workshop. I often just tune out and daydream and think they're talking about someone else. So supposedly, I'm a public speaker. And so supposedly I should have an awesome water bottle, but you see all of those scratches. And now like the seal inside is broken too. So when I drink it, it sort of falls on me. Who cares? Who cares how this water bottle looks? Who cares if the water falls on me? If I have to get another water bottle, where is it coming from? Our earth. I'm taking from her then, right? Our seventh guide. This guide is guiding us to our nature of Vasudeva Kutumbaka. To love all the way we love ourselves is Sindhu. Sindhu in English means the sea, S-E-A. And what Rishi Dattatreya had observed is that many, many, many rivers are flowing into the sea, and the sun is constantly burning the sea. So water is flowing in, water is evaporating out, but that sea doesn't rise. Now I'm going to stop here, considering this is a climate change and an earth workshop. Remember when Bhagavata was written, when it was documented, it was thousands of years ago, before humans really started to harm our earth. So sea levels didn't rise. Now, to an extent, this example doesn't work because sea levels are rising in unprecedented rates. That's a matter of concern. So the Avaduta sees that the sea doesn't rise. And for us, our practice then can be deepen. This is our seventh verb, our seventh practice, to deepen. That which is deep is unaffected by things coming in and things going out. Starting with how this relates to our future. Love thyself. To try to be less body conscious. To be less body conscious. There is a difference between being a beauty and being healthy. One who's body conscious is trying to be beautiful. One who's less body conscious is just trying to be healthy. So if you're deeper, to try to be healthy. In reference to loving thy neighbor, that is one family, to be less body conscious of another then. To care less about their rupa. Rupa means form. And if you think of this most logically, do you remember how you looked in high school? Centuries ago. Do you look the same way? Do the people that you went to school with look the same way? Our rupa is always changing. My wife and I discuss this quite often, is that when someone meets another person or they're meeting, let's say, our kids, they'll always describe that person or our kids physically first. She's so beautiful. He's so handsome. But that's going to change. Why don't you get to learn about who they are and know about their personality? So to be careful with our words. And at our mother level, this is One Earth, it is to invest in quality. When you invest in quality, it is going to be more of a long-term investment then. Like yesterday, we had heard about fast fashion, how harmful it is, how awful it is for the environment. It's not very deep, correct? The quality is not deep. So right away, you have to replace those clothes. In Chinmaya Mission, our motto is maximum happiness, maximum people, maximum time. I wish I had maximum time, but I've run out of time. We were supposed to study one more teacher this evening, but 33 minutes goes by fast. So tomorrow we'll explore more. I was sharing with all of you what the word Bhagavata means. Means best change, bha, which is to feel free, to feel you are the source of joy. Another word for bha, another meaning is Bhagavati. Our earth, one earth, love thy mother, is Bhagavati. This means she's an icon of divinity. And most specifically, she is known as a Chala Murti. She's an expression of divinity that moves. So what is Bhagavata? It is means best to change, to feel that our earth is not just conditioned by space, time, and matter. It's not just a planet, but it's an icon of divinity that we can feel, that we can be like. Transitioning now from sharing insights from philosophy to science from a professional, I am honored to be with all of you, honored to be in this workshop, and honored to introduce Meenakshi Umesh, who will be sharing insights into the importance of plants. Meenakshi ji is the founder of Puvidam. It is a school in rural Tamil Nadu, which is in India. Puvidam means love for earth in Tamil. This school provides a humane and sustainable curriculum for children and their families that allows learning to occur in a natural, experiential way that ultimately leads them to love themselves, love this earth, and to love others. Meenakshi ji also has an expertise in organic farming, earth-based space design, and water conservation. She hosts several immersive learning experiences and workshops for adults on natural and sustainable living. Meenakshi has contributed so much to our Chinmay Mission Cleveland Niagara community, and we are always appreciative of her dedication to the earth and to our community. Meenakshi ji. Just checking in with you to unmute your mic, please. We like to see you, but we'd like to hear from you more.
Sorry. Yeah. So I'll repeat. Very, very happy to be here and honored to be part of this wonderful community. And it's been a pleasure listening to Vivek ji, because I have believed everything that he speaks, but I just don't have the kind of words that the way he expresses everything, the way he connects, it's beautiful. The way we learn from nature and the way everything finally leads to us and thereby leads to our connection with everything else. So my learning in this direction has also started when I started to regenerate a plot of land that we bought way back in '92. And my real learning came from the plants. I had, read this book, beautiful book called The Secret Life of Plants. And even before that, I somehow felt, that plants can sense and plants respond. But when I read the book, I was really amazed. And the place where we are in Dharmapuri, it's a very arid space and there's very limited water. And I had this challenge of reforesting this plot of land with very minimum water. And the one thing that really helped was the knowledge that plants will respond not just to water, but to also the compassion and love and my aspiration to bring form to their selves by nurturing them. So the kind of things that plants can teach you is amazing. And I think yesterday Vivek ji said about, it is the most wonderful form of life on the planet in Bhagavad Gita. It is, I forget what he said, but something about the most Vivek ji, can you please put in that word? The trees are
Mahabhaga.
Mahabhaga, yes, they are the most fortunate to be who they are, and we are so fortunate that they exist, and because all our food comes from plants. If there was not plants, there would be nothing really on the planet, right? And the process of nurturing a plant actually makes you feel so much empathy, because here is a being that cannot ask, cannot reach out on its own for things that it needs except through the roots, but even that reach is very limited. So when you start nurturing, your observation skills, they really expand. You're just looking at the plants, you're looking at the leaves, you're seeing the insects that come on it. And this interaction is I believe, the only way to nurture complete empathy. And empathy is the one thing that finally leads to compassion and love. And this concept of loving ourselves more is, it happens naturally when we nurture plants, because more we think for the plant, we feel blessed that there are so many things thinking for us. So there's so much around us that is doing so much for us without asking. So this process of nurturing plants, it takes us through the journey of enjoyment, like Vivek ji just said. The minute you watch a plant grow, it's, you can't say it's bliss, it's happiness, it's something else. There's this connection, and everything that the plant expresses is somehow an expression of who I am, and therefore it is me, and it allows us to actually experience this Vasudhaiva Kutumba. And therefore plants are, it doesn't matter how small, whether it's in your balcony or whether they are outside, they are big trees or they are forests. Once you start to connect with plants, wherever you go, you look at a plant and you feel welcome. That's at least for me, that's how it's been working. And often I tell the children in my school, we've been here 30 years and we have all kinds of insects and snakes and poisonous things over here. But none of us has got bitten or harmed by any of these creatures, in spite of the fact that we are quite careless, in the sense we're not very careful and we're not wearing shoes or anything. We're just going around like we are part of nature. And then I tell the kids that once you get the experience of being in connection with the trees, once one tree knows that you are its friend, the whole planet knows that you are its friend. That's the kind of communication plants have with one another. There are many instances of all this, even in the book Secret Life of Plants, how plants experience us, and therefore, and they can share through their network. And we all know, there is a huge communication network, which is much better than the internet inside the ground, where the fungi do this, connection of all the plants all over the planet. And so once you can feel the connection with plants, the plants will take care of you wherever you go, because they need you, they love you. And therefore it is, you can be completely safe on this planet, because plants need you, they love you, and nothing will happen to you. They are our guardian angels, in fact. So this is the kind of conversation that we have with children. And it is true, at least in my case, I've walked on our land in the night, I've stepped on snakes and they've not bitten me. It's not that I'm exclusive. So there has to be something else that is making all this happen. And that, I think, is the consciousness of plants, which is so beautiful. It is already one, it's already one consciousness. And this experience of working with one plant and then extending it to organic farming and then extending it to communities and, the social organization on the planet. This is where I feel that as individuals, even if we are not able to do much directly, when we talk about love ourselves, the first and most important thing is to take care of our body. Yes, we need to exercise, but the most important thing is that we need to feed our body clean air, clean water, and clean food. And this is our duty. This is our duty to our body, that we give it good stuff. Excuse me. And where do you find this? Yeah, you can go to organic shops and buy the food, but how do you really know that it is organic? And how do you respect the person who's growing your food? So connecting with farmers, going to farms on a vacation, working with farmers on their land. This is what I feel is our way of loving ourselves more, because we know that, yes, I work with this farmer. I go to the land maybe once a month. I spend time, I pick fruits, I pick vegetables. I share my concern about the chemicals that perhaps the farmer has been putting. Slowly, we help that farmer to transition to organic farming and ensure that our bodies are getting good organic food. Farming is in a crisis all over the world. And the real reason for the crisis, if we go deep into the whole process, farming used to be for sustenance. Farmers used to grow food. for themselves, and then the excess was shared. The excess was shared. The first, most important thing was that farmer was growing food for himself and his family. So farming was for sustenance. When farming became for money, when you start farming because you want to get some cash crops and then sell them and get money, we lost a connection with the land. And therefore, it is important for all of us to nurture farming back into becoming an activity for sustenance, for the farmer as well as for all of us, not for growing money, And that the day the farmer decided that he can sell his crops and grow and get money, that is the day he also lost connection with the land and its health, the soil health. And if you're talking about in the context of climate change and global warming, we all must know that organic farming is actually one of the ways to sequester all the carbon which is there, through the soil microbes. Soil is one entity which is there all over the globe. The only thing it needs microbes. And what we have done with all our chemical addition to farming is to remove the microbes. So it's our duty to ensure that more and more land comes into organic farming. And just that, okay, I am privileged that I can buy organic food for myself is not enough. Because if we are talking about our love for our mother, our love for our neighbor, then we have to include everybody to be able to eat organic food. Organic food goes at a premium price. So actually, at least in India, the farmer cannot afford to eat organic. So our attempt at Puvidam is to work with organic farmers to make sure that first they start farming for sustenance, for their own sustenance. And we say only the excess will be sold, and we'll help you to sell it. And we sell it not at a fixed price, but at a variable price, depending on how much the person can pay. So for the local people, the other farmers nearby, it is at cost price. And the excess is given through the trust to the farm. So we cover the cost. And then we have a platform called Madhive, through we try to sell at a premium price for people who can afford it. So I think we can all indulge in these kind of cross subsidies and forming farming communities. Like actually you can form a consumer group and then you can support a few farmers. When we support farmers, what kind of support do they need? They need support with money, investment. When you really sit down and think about it, farming is the most risky occupation on this planet as it is. And now with the climate crisis, at least 100 times more risky, which means when you're investing, when I'm putting my crops in, I don't know whether I'm going to get anything back. I just have to have faith. So that means farmers are continuously working only from their faith. Yeah, okay, last year, this happened, but let's try this again. And who is doing the investment? He's investing his whole life. Farmers go into debt. Farmers go into a lot of physical, emotional stress because of this. Do we feel that? Because that, when we start feeling that, the stress of the farmer, when we start extending our arms and our hands to help him, when we start extending our resources to help the farmer, that is when we'll be truly helping our planet. So I feel as individuals, our practice can go very easily in the direction of getting the earth back to health. It's just a matter of taking that extra time and that extra thought to support somebody who is feeding the whole planet, a farmer. And this process of engaging ourselves in organic farming is not just helping the farmer. If you go and spend 1 hour digging soil, there's enough research on this. If the soil is organic and if it has a lot of microbes, when you work with the soil, you actually inhale microbes that work on your serotonin and oxytocin, which means you automatically become happy. You become joyous. Just the act of working. It also helps us to become healthy, Yeah, we call it jungle gym. Just go, start doing some planting trees and doing some carrying of things. And yeah, exercise. You don't have to go and work on on a workout or do yoga. You can just go ahead and work on the farm. And that is exercise enough. And in fact, maybe much more useful and meaningful, because, right there, through your exercise, you're creating food. And as humans, I think the only thing that distinguishes us from the whole animal world is our ability to create, our ability to make anything much faster than perhaps even nature herself can make. By our ability to observe the processes and copy them, and then use our analytical thinking and critical thinking to speed in the processes. So say soil, which nature takes 300 years to make, can be made by us through composting within 3 months. We have the ability. Now it is our time to exercise this ability and extend our support to our mother and make sure that all of us are equally privileged and equally in good health, because I think there are enough sayings which say that, we can't think about I anymore. It's we. We have to be together. Thank you.
Very powerful, Meenakshi ji. And now we'll shift from our discourses to our dialogue. If anyone has any questions, you can virtually put your hand up for Meenakshi ji and or myself, and then we'll follow an order for those questions. Any questions from a philosophical perspective, a professional perspective? Here too, if anyone has any questions they want to ask live, you can put your hand up. You can also ask in the chat for those who are joining from India. It's early for you. Maybe you haven't had tea yet, so it's hard for you to speak. So then you can just type out your question in the chat and I'll read it out for everyone else. Any questions? Okay. We have a question about, would you please share more about Puvidam? So Puvidam means love for earth in Tamil. That will be my contribution. Now Meenakshi ji will share more about Puvidam.
Puvidam is actually an alternative learning space, which was a fallout of my learning when I decided to leave the city. And the reason I left the city was because I felt that it was my duty to give my body clean air, clean water, and clean food, and that was not available in the city. And everything else can be created, but these are things that have to exist before we start to work on them. So we moved to Puvidam. It's also called, the farm is also called Puvidam. And in '92, and for the first 8 years, I was literally like a python in silence and only connecting with Mother Nature and trying to regenerate this plot of land. And then in 2000, we started the Learning Center when my children came into being, because I realized that there was no learning in my previous years, like all the way until I was on the land and learning directly from nature. I didn't feel that I had really learned anything, especially about life. Maybe I learned something which is doable, but about life, about how to live. And I think that is the most important learning that we need. We need to know how to live a good life. And what the normal education system ends up teaching us is how to consume, how to become bigger in terms of our footprint on the planet. Whereas nature teaches us to tread lightly. And I wanted my children to learn that directly from nature, because I didn't feel I was capable of teaching them that. Mother nature is the best teacher. So we decided that we'll have a learning space. It was started as a home school. Now it's a learning space. It was a learning space before the COVID hit for about 100 kids. Now we've minimized the school, which is on campus, to about a micro school, 20 kids. And we have an online reach out for parents who want to continue to do homeschooling for their kids. Does that answer the question? Enough?
Yes, definitely, Meenakshi ji. And one more quick question. How fulfilling is it to dedicate your life to the earth? So my perspective on that is try. And you tell us how fulfilling it is. And now Meenakshi ji, you can share an insight also to this question. How fulfilling is it to dedicate your life to the earth?
Like I was saying, as humans, the only thing that sets us apart is our ability to create. I think we've lost it through our education system. As children, we create all the time. Even our toys, we imagine, we create with our hands. That gives satisfaction. That is the only thing that can give us complete satisfaction, where you feel, oh, I made this. It really nurtures your self-worth and makes you feel good about yourself. And finally, if you want to love yourself, then you need to do this. You need to feel good about yourself. So each person has different things that make them feel good about themselves. And for me, nurturing the plants, creating a forest was what was the most fulfilling activity. So yes, for me it was.
Thank you, Meenakshi ji, for both your insights and then experiential answering to all of the questions that our seekers have asked. One more insight about how it feels to touch the earth. As I was driving to the home I'm speaking in right now, and we were discussing how many of us, when we were growing up and we had to go from place to place, we used maps. We used physical maps and followed the routes, and this is where a restaurant was, and this is where an intersection is. And now everything is so digital and so virtual, that whole visceral experience is missing. Now, so much joy can come from a map. Imagine actually touching a plant and then cleaning that plant and then eating that plant. What's a dimension apart? Yesterday, you were given a RAD, your reflection adventure of the day, and that was to pick one of the various practices from a philosophical and or professional perspective. How many of you tried, by a show of hands? Good. I'm curious to know, for those who are online, please share in the chat, what did you try? See, you weren't expecting me to ask you. Now you have to quickly remember and make something up, correct? What I practiced was that everyone is on a journey. As I was interacting with lots of people today and all of the mistakes they were making, I was remembering that everyone is on a journey. And so those mistakes felt less heavy then. It's a journey. We all make mistakes. And others are sharing that they practiced active listening and to not fixate on the negativity. Yes, very good. This is Vasudhaiva Kutumbaka, not just on a t-shirt or a plaque, but in action. Your RAD, your application for today is now to pick a new practice. Many have been shared from 3 more guides, and then our professionals shared so many more ways that we can practice one earth, one family, one future. Transitioning to announcements now. From the United Consciousness side, we are celebrating the International Day of Yoga with a huge conference in Germany, near Hanover. This is from June 19th to the 22nd, and all of you are invited to join us in Germany. We have Nagendra ji who will be joining, Baba Ramdev will be joining, and our aspiration is for United Consciousness to become a world authority on yoga training. That anyone who wants to share yoga, that's authorized, endorsed by United Consciousness. So we're bringing experts in yoga from around the world, particularly from India, where yoga has started, to this conference. So I'm actively inviting all of you to join us for this. From the Chinmay Mission Cleveland Niagara side, yesterday I spoke about dedicating to Devi, a challenge to change our lifestyle for our mother. Today I'm sharing with all of you an effort called Plant One for One. It is an effort to plant trees, plant one tree for oneness. Trees are Mahabhaga, as was shared yesterday, shared today. We have an internal challenge called the Sahasra Vriksha Sankalpa, that our community is capable of planting 1,000 trees. We did 1,100 last year. Thus far, we're around 250. And if everyone who's hearing me speaking right now, if we all just planted 1 or 2 or 3 trees, we would definitely complete planting over 1,000 trees. We have a tracker on our website, and take some photographs to inspire each other also. The home I'm staying in right now, one of the trees is named Gata Vyata, for all those who are studying the values of Bhagavad Gita. So it's a new species of tree that the owners named Gata Vyata. The seed comes from not being bothered. That's the family, the genus, and so on. Happy to be with all of you again, all those from around the world. Please continue to join us for the next 2 evenings as we continue with philosophical and professional insights on how nature is guiding us to nature, that is Vasudeva Kutumbaka. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Be safe, be sound, be serene, be joy.